Hello, my name is Carl Surrey and this is a video tutorial for the Facebook group called Fans of Serif Software. Now this is part 2 of a series of comparing Serif's older photo editing program PhotoPlus with their newer Affinity Photo. This we're looking at the moment is PhotoPlus, and this is going to be a sort of part 2 also in looking at playing with the colours of an image. In the first video we looked at the black and white adjustment and the channel mixer adjustment. Now in this one we're going to start off by looking at the hue, saturation and luminance or lightness adjustment, which is in PhotoPlus, this one here, and I think it's called hue, saturation, lightness in PhotoPlus and hue, saturation, luminance in Affinity Photo. The adjustments for any sort of layered adjustments or destructive, non-destructive adjustments, I did sort of in the introduction to the video one, I did describe a bit about what's the difference between destructive and non-destructive adjustments. I'm going to be using non-destructive adjustments, so this adjustment panel will be over here on the right in PhotoPlus and the layers will be displayed below. One thing I did forget to mention in the first video is that many of these adjustments will come with a layer mask attached, so you could paint sort of black onto this layer mask to hide any of the effects that you are going to make, but that is a sort of totally different video. But as long as you know that it is possible to remove part of the effects that you are making from an image by painting on the layer mask. So quickly looking at the HSL adjustment in PhotoPlus. Now you do have some presets up here which you can increase saturation, decrease saturation, and these have been preset by Serif, but I'll put it back to default. And then along the top here you have 7 boxes, the first one being multicolored, and this is how it is in the image that you are looking at, which is default, so that's all colors. And you could look at the red range of colors, the yellows, greens, cyan, blues and magentas. I'll go back to all colors. So you could increase the saturation of all the colors or decrease the saturation and make it black and white. That way I'll just press reset. Similarly, if I went to say red for example and I increase the saturation, it will increase the reds in the image or decrease the reds in the image without affecting the other colors. So again I will just go to reset and go back to the start position, and just as a quick demonstration I will pick the yellow range of colors and I'm going to desaturate this down to -80. There we go, -80. And what that has done, because there's only the one yellow pencil, as you can see it has made that a sort of beige colour. Now if I then click on say the red channels, it will not alter that because that has already been made. That's changing the yellow to a beige. So now that we are into the red hue range, we are going to change the hue rather than the saturation, and I'm going to move this to the right and move it up to 30. It'd be easier for me to type that in. There we go, 30. And so that one that was burgundy is now a sort of brown colour. It hasn't really affected the brown one so much. Next to it, that red pen has gone to be orange, and the orange one is now yellow, and obviously the yellow pencil is still beige. So that is how you can use the hue, saturation and lightness in PhotoPlus. Let us move on to Affinity Photo. Now with the adjustments, it is just called HSL in Affinity Photo, and if I go back to the layers panel, you can see it has got a layer mask already attached to it. So like I said before, you can paint on to hide part of the effects that you are making. Now with this one, you have, rather than the little boxes of different colours, you can get the sort of reds, yellows, greens, magentas, what have you, in this way. I must admit I'm not 100% certain what HSV is, but you also got the same hue slider, saturation slider, and a luminosity shift, which would be the same as lightness. So what we will do is, I will do similar to what we did before, come to the yellows and drop this down to -80. Go. As you can see, that yellow pencil has gone beige, and I'll then come back to the reds and alter the hue up to 30. Now the difference here is the hue does not work quite the same way in Affinity Photo as it does in PhotoPlus, because if we go back to PhotoPlus, in PhotoPlus it sort of, the hue slider starts at yellow, blue, dark blue, then it goes into the reds, then yellows, and then greens. So moving it up from where its start position, which was like the reds, moving it up to 30 moves it still within the red range, but slightly lighter. In Affinity Photo, we sort of start with the reds, then it goes yellows, greens, blues, and then back to the pinks and reds. So where we started from here, we may have to actually go the opposite direction, sort of minus 30 rather than plus 30, to get this brown, orange and yellow effect, which was similar to how we had it in PhotoPlus. So let me just close that down. So looking at the two images, I mean they're pretty close. You've got brown, sort of orange, yellow, beige. We've got brown, orange, yellow, beige. So it's just a case of you move the opposite direction in Affinity Photo with the hue slider. So that is really the quick look at the HSL adjustment in both programs. So I'll just reset things and I will be back in a little while. Okay, moving on to the replacement color tools. Now, both in PhotoPlus and Affinity Photo, they are destructive tools. So once you've made your changes, you are sort of stuck with them. But in PhotoPlus, you can come to Images, Adjust, and then down to replace color, and it opens up this panel here which gives you a representation of the image that you have open, and then you have some color pickers. So if I select the add color and I come to this light blue pencil here, or lighter blue I should say, and click onto that, what I'll do is I'll put a tick into show selection, and then I will just bump up the tolerance, and as you can see it is starting to show all the pixels of a similar color range to the one that I clicked on. So I'm going to move this up to around about 25. Go 25. So it is just going to affect those pixels that are being displayed up there. So I can now tinker with the colors, and it will only affect those pixels. So if I move the hue up to about 48, there we go. So it's already gone to a darker blue, that pencil. And I'm going to move the saturation up to about 25, 26 or so. Go 25, and I'm going to reduce the brightness down to around the 20 mark, 21, that would do. So, and if I click the preview on and off, that was the original color, and that is the color we've changed that pencil to. Now, I personally think this is a pretty good tool, but it doesn't seem to be, or I can't find a similar tool to this in Affinity Photo, and I'm quite welcome to be proven wrong, but as yet I have not found a tool similar to this. I think it's quite a neat little tool. It's not one you're going to use every day of the week, but it is quite handy to know that it is there. I mean, it can be, a bit hit and miss, because you can have similar coloured pencils that are sort of close in colour. So maybe these two dark blue ones. I mean, if I'd done the dark blue one there, and then increase that tolerance, as you can see, there's pixels of that sort of dark colour. Now we've got the black one that's starting to show up, and the browns over here. So it'd be harder to select just the dark pencil rather than that one light pencil, but it is still quite a good tool, I think. So I'll just cancel that. So like I said, if I clicked OK, that would have been destructive and I wouldn't been able to go back. In Affinity Photo, they have what is called a Colour Replacement Brush Tool. It is in the same submenu. By default it should be on Paintbrush Tool, but the Colour Replacement Brush Tool is in that same menu. Unlike a lot of the brush tools, you can change the hardness, the flow, and the opacity and the size. Accumulation is a sort of works in a similar way to the sponge tool. In fact, it accumulates the colours from where you are clicking, from the foreground colour, and transfers it to where you are going to click. So again, working on this light blue pencil here, we currently have black as our foreground colour, and if I just click and drag, it doesn't necessarily turn that black, it is just colouring it really. If I'll press Ctrl and Z a few times to get rid of that. And as you can see from down the bottom here, you've got some options that you can do, and one of them is drag Alt to get the colour picker. So if I press down the Alt key and click and move, the colour picker magnifying glass will come up. So I could come over to, say, the yellow, and then when I let go, yellow will now be the foreground colour. And if I now paint on this blue pencil, I can try and make it look yellow. Now the problem here is it seems to be a bit random as and when it wants to paint. I can't get it to sort of paint sort of everywhere I want it to. It's rather frustrating. We try a different colour. If I go for the red this time, see, it's only really altering the areas it seems to want to. I don't know. I'm obviously doing something wrong, and I find it to be a bit hit and miss. So in this respect, PhotoPlus, in my opinion, wins hands down. And I personally, I wouldn't necessarily use the colour replacement brush tool unless I really had to. Unless somebody can explain to me where I'm going wrong, I really can't see the point in it. So that is the end of looking at this particular tool. So I will reset things, and again I will be back. Okay, moving on to the next adjustments, and that is going to be the curves adjustment. Again, this can be used as destructive or non-destructive, but I'm going to use the non-destructive layer method. And in PhotoPlus, like in all the adjustments that are non-destructive, the panel for the adjustments will be here. And normally the curves adjustment is used just to sort of tweak the contrast slightly, because what you normally do is you put just click somewhere in the middle, and what I normally do is put them at the intersections of these three crossover points of the lines here, and you just make this into a gentle S shape by clicking and dragging. So you can just make it into a gentle S shape. Because down this end of the graph, where the shadows are going to be, or the dark areas will be affected, and the top half is where the light areas will be affected. So you can, do fairly gentle adjustments that way. But you can also do very extreme adjustments. You could make it really psychedelic by moving these in all over the place. And it is very difficult because it is a very sensitive and not necessarily very precise tool. Let me reset this back to the beginning. It's very hard for me to compare positions on the curve thing between the two programs. It is all really down to your personal taste and a bit of trial and error. So that is basically how the curves work in PhotoPlus. And if I come to Affinity Photo Adjustments and Curves down here, and it's very similar in the sense shadows will be this end of the graph, and the highlights will be that end of the graph. You can just click to put anchor points in, and then just alter those anchor points and get all sorts of weird and wacky colours, depending on how you move these around. So, like I said, if I just reset this, oh, I forgot to change the image. But yeah, so it's very hard for me to give you set points for you to just try things on and compare them with how they came out in PhotoPlus. But as you can see, you can make alterations to the colours of the pencils, to very mild adjustments, to really extreme adjustments. So that is really my quick look at the curves adjustments, and I will just quickly reset and come back and look at one more adjustment. Okay, the last one I want to look at is selective colour. So again, start off in PhotoPlus. Selective colour is can be used as a non-destructive adjustment. So I'll just click on that, and it looks and will feel very similar to things like the channel mixer and tools like that, in the sense that you have the red, yellows, greens, cyan, blues, magentas that you can alter. You have some similar presets, and you have your various sliders that you can adjust. Slight difference here is we have two buttons that you can tick in, either relative or absolute. Now I'm going to read this from the help file, and it's got relative and absolute determine how the ink percentage change is calculated per pixel. Select absolute to apply the same percentage across all pixels in the target range. Select relative to vary the change in proportions to the strength of the target component in each pixel. So for example, if the target range was reds and you selected relative, pixels that were only slightly red would only be slightly changed, while saturated reds would become affected more dramatically. So, I would leave, but I'm going to leave it on the relative, so hopefully you understood that as it's read out. And just for a quick demonstration, I'm going to leave it set on reds, and I'm going to alter the yellow slider, and I'm going to come down to minus 75-ish, 76, that will do. And you should be able to see that the burgundy, red and orange pencils have all turned sort of pink. We just turn that on and off. And it is a bit much like the channel mixer tool, but it hasn't really affected any of the other pencils as much as it did with the channel mixer, and also it hasn't really affected the background either in my particular picture, because there's no reds in there. So it is much like the channel mixer, but like it is called, it is a bit more selective. So having a quick look at Affinity Photo, somewhere here, selective colour, and here you've only got the one button where you can have relative, and I'm guessing if you take the tick away it will become absolute. So again, you have the various colour ranges, and it's pretty much the same. So I'm going to leave it on reds. I'm going to drop this down to minus 75, 76, as close as I can get. There we go. And as you can see, the red coloured ones have turned pink. probably not quite as pink as it was in PhotoPlus, or pinker I should say, but it is selectively altered those colours. So really that is all I can tell you about the selective colour. It is more a subtle version of the channel mixer really. So that is the end of look at how you can affect various colours on your images. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.